Okay, so once I had that whole list of things that I wanted to put on there, the functions, the tools, the mounting, and so on, then I started looking at, or where are they all going to fit? So I basically, there's a couple of going back and forth on this one really. So this is the actual bench. This is the micro bench. This is with everything on it, right? Now if I hide the trays, excuse me, the with the cavities, this is basically what you're seeing, which is the base station. Okay, so we've got the base, the tray number one, we have the risers, we have the tray number two, we have a short riser here, and then we have tray number three. So those are the boards without any special cavities or anything else. Then if I go back to what I would call the overlays, and this is how those are going to overlay the different trays. So I've got tray number one, tray number two, tray number three, and then I also have the front and the back. And you can kind of see how they're a little bit translucent, but basically what they're doing is they're showing me where everything is going to fit. I can make sure everything is going to go like it's supposed to, right? So I took and I, over time, this was a combination of drawing, but then also of prototyping. It wasn't one or the other. It was constantly drawing, constantly prototyping. So here we are with tray number one. Here we are with tray number two. Here we are with, here we are with tray number three. And then this would be the back and the front. And the back and front are symmetrical. They're both the same. At least they are right now. So starting with tray number one, if we just start at the top, like this here, this square is for the DeWalt, the 9-foot ruler. This is for a 3-inch Incra. And then a speed square, a 10-inch Rikon, the bandsaw. So the bandsaw gets a hole here and a hole here, and then the bandsaw cantilevers from there. In fact, if we just take a look at the bandsaw, for instance, that's how those are going to fit on there, right? And then I've also got a couple of drill presses that have these bases that need to be mounted down in here. Those are real standard. So if we go back to that index and we look, and we can see that there's 3 holes that are here. There's one here, and one here. Those match up to the drill press, the base for the the Wen. It also fits a steel 8-inch and a Rikon, a small Rikon, at least those that I have, right? It might even fit other ones. I think it's a common thing. So then we start going around, and I also wanted to be able to put some bench dogs in there, so I put the 3/4 inch, but those are square rather than round. That way they fit both types. And then I want to be able to put a Forstner bit in here because the drill press is going to go in here. I use Forstner bits all the time, and I want to be able to have a Forstner bit handy. And it's exactly the same over on the other side, so the same 3 holes, right? The same hole, the square dog. And then this larger one, goofy looking one, that's for an electrical cord. You come down from the drill press so the electrical cord doesn't have to hang off the side. Then we continue going down around here. We start getting into various holding things for the R&R clamps. And then I also have these rows of, there's a row here and a row here of 1/4 inch holes. Those are for when the vise goes on. If we put the vise on, then there's our vise. Okay, now again, the holes aren't showing right now, so what's going to happen here is when you put this vise on right in here, you can only get about an inch and a half of material. That's it. Well, if you want to do wider stuff, not for glue ups because there's not enough power here, but for just holding it, for sanding it, maybe doing some drilling, mortising, then that's what those holes are about. That are going to be put in there. So you can see right here these holes. There's a row set here and a set here, and that way then when we put the vise on, that we have a way to put something in between there, or the piece between there, and then these screws, these bolts up on top would end up being used as we tighten this down, that'll put pressure towards that. So that's kind of an overview of that. Let's go back to the index, because this is really where everything is. And then I've got TBDs, true to be determined. Those are basically going to be bits that I use on a regular basis. I constantly use the Allen wrenches, both the 1/4 inch and the 3/16. I use hinge bits all the time, so I wanted to have a couple of those handy. Again, now we get the drill press base again. We have some Bessie clamp holes. These are the big Bessie ones right here, those are going to be holding a lot of stuff. I've already been using those quite a bit, more Forstner bits. And then we have some 2-inch U-bolts. Those are for the R&R clamps. We get up into here. Again, we have the Rikon mortise. So then we can get up into the tray number 2 and start picking up more stuff. And boy, when it gets crazy like that, if you are in SketchUp, you just go in there and click on that, and that'll get it back. But so now we go into tray number 2. Go quick tour there. These are for the joinery for the mortise and tenon, the threaded tenon joinery. And then I've got an area here. Most of this area is reserved for the 18-volt drivers. So if we look at the let's see, where do I have them up here? Canada, 18-volt right here. Okay, so here what I did is I didn't try drawing in detail the drivers, but I basically have the battery size, the 18-volt, 12-volt, the stand-up type. And so they know that they're going to fit in there height-wise, and I can fit about 4 of those in there and got the layout for that. So that's where that all goes. And then going back to tray number 2, we have another 9-foot D-wall tape. I use those a lot. This area right here is all pencils. And then I use the digital calipers a lot, so I wanted a slot for that. The 6-inch Inca ruler or a speed square, either one. And then this one will fit the 3-inch Inca ruler, a felt tip pen. And then I always want to have some GRKs handy. I always want to have some bolts handy, so those are slots or holes for those. And then we've got a little bit of thing here. This has to do with tray number 3. This is tray number 3 is a remote control, like for a TV or a stereo. But when you stick that in there, then it wants to slide down. So that's what that'll hold that bottom from sliding out. It's called an anti-slide. That's my term for it anyhow. So, and then we have again some more Allen wrenches up here because I use those so frequently. And then I use a 1/2-inch socket a lot. And then also now we've got the glue, which would be for the wood glue, and then also the Gorilla Glue, and those would be inverted in there. And then I use a hide scraper all the time, so we've got that. So that's tray 2. Then we go over to tray 3, real quick tour again. And you can see how we're starting to fit all of these functions and all of these tools some way, shape, or form onto all of the trays. So here's a large mug holder. Now this is going to look a little different than when it really comes out. It shows a little bit of yellow right in here, which has to do with the CNC. I won't get into that right now. That's more of a CNC thing, but it has to do with how that gets put onto a CNC, makes it a lot easier to do. But this would be a large mug, like a coffee mug. This would be the 12-ounce can. It's all set up for that. This would be for the wine stem glass. This would be a slot for the charger on the cell phone. And then these pegs right here, that's all we need to use to hold a cell phone. We don't need a slot. We just use pegs, and they stand up. And then we've got all that. This is for the mortise, for the joinery. That's going to go down to tray, the riser that's going to go down to tray number 2 below it. Here again, a charger for a like an Android or a tablet type of device, iPad. Here's for the USB ports, and then here's for the TV and remote TV or stereo remote control. Then when we go down to the back, let's see if I can get down there. Okay, here we go. So this is the back and the front. Again, they're symmetrical. So this is actually showing the inside. You won't be seeing these from the outside. This has to do with the vise and the places for the threaded tenons actually to go to bring in the threaded bolt coming from the vise. This is for some clamps that are going to be, it'll allow Bessie clamps to go up. This will allow Bessie clamps or any kind of clamp like the Festool type clamps to go down, and then has to do with the mounting part of it. So for instance, like if we're mounting this, when we're mounting this, we're going to have some clamps that are going to go from here. Again, you're not seeing them because this is the base bench without any of the holes in it. But if we look at the overlay, then you can see here how those slots are going to be placed in there. And then that allows for a clamp to go through and hold it in all different kinds of positions. So that's all that part of it. And so basically what we have is what I would call the index of showing everything, all the functions, all the tools, and all the mounting options that are integrated into the MikroBench.